now listening to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the 15-minute show, part of the Arsenal Therapy Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at Martin Zubimendi. Sami Mokbel confirmed that Arsenal have booked his medical. He's a player that we have looked at before. It was around 18 months ago. Arsenal were heavily linked. It looked like he was going to be a key target last summer. He ended up nearly going to Liverpool, rejecting them, staying at Sociedad, and then agreeing a deal to join Arsenal. So he is someone that we are going to be looking at in a bit of detail today. It looks like, for all intents and purposes, he will be an Arsenal player. It's a matter of medicals, formalities, and announcements, of course, that could come in July, according to papers in Spain, just due to tax reasons that we hear. Who knows if that's true, but let's have a look at his key features. So first off, who is Martin Zubimendi? So he is a 26-year-old Spanish midfielder, very much a number 6 who can play as an 8 as well. So he is more of a Gundogan style 8 than he is a Declan Rice or a Martin Odegaard style 8. He's diminutive, he's small, he's very good with 2 feet. And according to Transfermarkt, his value is around €60 million, which in all truth is what most of these players should be valued at. Many are massively overpriced, and if you look at the values within Transfermarkt, they're more in line with what we would, as fans, believe players are worth rather than what's actually paid. So he only turned 26 in February. He's a player that's very much entering his prime years, and he's been at Sociedad for the duration of his career. So if you look at his position map, he has played the majority of his minutes as a defensive midfielder. 75% of his minutes, almost 76%, have been played very much in that defensive role, that number 6 role that we know so well at Arsenal. What's interesting about this role, we often talk about Thomas Partey as the lone 6. I will die on the hill that there is no such thing as a lone 6, because anyone that plays a lone 6 very well has got inverted fullbacks. So when Arsenal are in possession, Miles Lewis-Skelly very much tucks in beside the number 6. He creates a double pivot as a result of his presence in possession. Out of possession, Declan Rice drops back in and Arsenal go into that 4-4-2 shape. So that is something to be aware of. When we talk about a lone 6, we're rarely talking about a player that is completely isolated in that zone by themselves. And people will be pointing out, Martin Zubimendi can't run backwards. Think Jorginho and look at his qualities. Look at how often he actually got beat on transition at Arsenal, and look at how he was protected. People forget that we've got 2 of the biggest, strongest, fastest centre-halves on the planet behind our 6. We also have a very, very quick right-back in Jurriën Timber, or Ben White, who, although we haven't seen it this season, is like a gazelle getting up and down that right-hand side. Lewis-Skelly is no slouch himself. And we've got Calafiori, who is someone, he's not quite as quick as Saliba and Gabriel, but he is pretty quick himself as well. So there is plenty of protection around Zubimendi. And let's not forget that Declan Rice is one of the best, if not the best, out of possession midfielders on the planet. The way he can get back, the way he can cover, the way he gets up and down. This is a player in Martin Zubimendi that is really going to unlock Declan Rice at Arsenal. And we saw Rice play his best football at Arsenal last season whenever he was beside Jorginho. This season, it was when he came with a bit of freedom and he was allowed to really excel in that 8 role. But as opposed to a normal 8 that we would consider very high up the park, Declan Rice's best football came with him playing that box-to-box role and really getting up and down the pitch and being able to use his physicality, his athleticism, and just his all-round very, very strong technical ability. And that's something that's overlooked with Declan. We look at how he receives, and it is mechanical, and he doesn't have the smoothness that someone like Thomas Partey has, or Martin Zubimendi, but he is an incredibly technical player. He's got one of the best passing ranges in the squad. His passing range is different to Partey's. Declan can play those line-breaking passes, but Martin Zubimendi can play some of these for fun. And we're going to have a look at his passing actions as well as some of his other key features. So as you can see, his season heat map is very congested around the middle of the park. Sociedad haven't been a good team. This is something that you have to remember. You have to look at whenever you look at who the team is signing. This isn't the team that had Marino last year that we looked at. This is a team that have been struggling this year. Zubimendi has started 33 of their 36 games. He's played around an average of 82 minutes per game. Obviously, 3 of those games were off the bench. So that is why his minutes have been reduced, but he is generally a full game player for them and one of their key linchpins in the middle of the park. It's very, very heavily congested around that center circle. He's got a slight left-hand side bias, which you can see from the heat map. That will be interesting to see how we work it, because there's two sides to this. Number one, Thomas Partey's a very right-sided player. Declan Rice is a left-sided player. So how will Zubimendi and Rice work together, and how will that serve our right-hand side? It could massively improve the left-hand side of the pitch, but one of the great things about Zubimendi is he's very, very two-footed. So this will give Arsenal a completely different option to what we've got now. But one other thing that's very interesting about Martin Zubimendi, if you look at his FB chart, nothing really jumps off the page. This is very much an eye test player, and I would put Jorginho in that mold as well. So he's not a high percentage volume passer. So he's someone that's willing to take risks from that sixth position. I would put him more in that Rodri mold, in that he's not scared to just move the ball forward. We talk about tempo setters. Zubimendi right now, I would say, alongside Rodri, is probably the best tempo setter in the world. There's a lot of teams out there that would really, really love this player. There are a very, very small number of these on the planet. One that is coming through in the Premier League is Adam Wharton. And the reason why Zubimendi's signing is so important is because if this deal doesn't go through, and this is why I believe it has to go through first of all our signings, this deal is 51 million because of his release clause. There is a potential that Arsenal pay slightly more to get it in installments and get a better financial package over that we can spread over 5 years, for example. But if we don't do this deal, suddenly this market becomes much, much more expensive. Adam Wharton, much less experienced, less rounded, and also off the back of quite an injury-hit season, would cost upwards of 100 million just because he's English. He's been playing in the Premier League. He has shone whenever he has played. Look at Carlos Baliba, another player that I really, really like. Again, you could be looking at 100 million pounds for him. So this is the issue. If this signing does not go through, and this is why it's so important that we need to get this done first, we then can focus on the attacking market. We can bring in the striker we want, and hopefully that means that there will be money in the pot to go and bring in a winger. And as much as people are going to hate me saying it, a centre-back, because Saliba is playing just too many minutes. But one thing that does really stand out, you all know, everyone that's watched Zubimendi will see his passing. It's short game, long game. It's very, very varied. He knows how to just pop it off to a teammate. He knows how to play, spin that ball into space and really get his team going very quickly. He knows when to put his foot on the ball, slow things down, and do the basics very, very well. But one thing that may surprise you is the percentage of dribblers tackled. 89%. He doesn't get dribble pass very often. So 89th percentile, 95th percentile for percentage of aerial duels won, which is incredible for a player of his height, and 92nd for clearances. This is a player that isn't scared to do the defensive side of the game, but he is scrappy, but he times things very, very well, and he's clean in his defensive actions despite being a bit of a rugged, scrappy player at the back, and he's not scared to get stuck in. In terms of his heat map, just a different view of this. As you can see, again, this one's from Opta, very, very left-hand side bias, but very heavily congested around the middle of the park. And the highest frequency of his play comes in the just slightly to the left of the centre. And I don't see that being a problem for Arsenal because our right-hand side is extremely strong. We often talk about that triangle of Ben White, Martin Odegaard, and Bukayo Saka, or Jurriën Timber. That side is already very good. Kai Havertz likes to drift over there. Our issue has been that we create very, very little from the left. We create around 75% of our chances from the right-hand side, and the left is very much a problem. Martin's touch map is pretty insane. He's a player that will receive the ball all over the park. As you can see, more than comfortable receiving from within his own box, heavily congested around the middle of the park. He can receive between the lines. He also isn't scared to tell a defender not to pass to him. And this is something that's overlooked. It's not what you do on the ball at times, it's what you don't do. And that can be a real positive. Martin Zubimendi is very good in the same way Jorginho is at just pointing to a teammate and saying, don't use me, and moving a defender away, moving that attacker who's trying to press away from the passer, creating space for someone else and just getting them to pop it off, and then kind of moving into that area and taking the ball. He doesn't need it every time. And this is another thing that's been an issue at Arsenal, where at times our players can be too keen to get the ball from our keeper, from our centre-backs. Sometimes you just need to say, no, keep the ball, hold on to it a second, or give it to someone else. Play that safe pass. And we have been caught out a few times playing out from the back this season. That is part of the risk. But with Zubimendi, he's someone that won't just be a player that's highly beneficial on the ball, but one that is happy not to receive and direct the traffic around him. So the pass map, again, you're seeing a player, as I mentioned, that has got an incredible short game, give and go, very quick 1-2s with his teammates, equally can put his foot on the ball, pop it back to the keeper, give a safe pass out to his fullbacks. He is someone that is a minimalist. He isn't someone, in the way Thomas Partey will want to drop the shoulder, really beat his man, get that pass straight into his 8 and between the lines. Zubimendi's someone that will drop the shoulder and give that first time. So don't be surprised to see him just floating the ball right over the top. But what's interesting with this, you'll see 84% pass accuracy. That's quite low for a 6. And this is why he doesn't rank in the top passers. And this is why the eye test is very important for Zubimendi. As I mentioned, he's someone that will go left foot, right foot. How often do you see Arsenal, both Rice and Partey will get the ball and they will pass one way? Rice can go right to left. He can also go left to right, but he has to turn his body to do it. Zubimendi can smoothly go either side. One weakness, however, to be aware of is he does tend to pass in the direction he's looking at, so he won't always see the full field. So if he's looking towards the right, he will get it quickly and simply out to the player on the right-hand side, which is highly beneficial, but he doesn't always see kind of his blind side and the opportunity to play that big switch. But this is a guy, as I said, both feet, and too often, both of our 6s in Declan Rice and Thomas Partey are too inclined to pass it on the right foot. Neither of them have the speed of release on their left. Partey's left isn't great. Rice actually has a decent left foot, but he needs to be set to hit the ball on that. Zubimendi, first time, give and go, very Spanish, very technical, and very smooth in his actions. So this is a player that we desperately need in the heart of the midfield. And a key example of this, if you look at the areas he receives in, this is very similar to where we see Thomas Partey. Look at where he's moving to get the ball in both of these images. He's happy getting it surrounded by defenders. But what's interesting in both of these is how isolated he is in the 6th role. So if you look back at Jorginho whenever he left Chelsea, he was being desperately exposed. A big part of that was because he had no one around him. The distances were huge. And this is a prime example of it here. Look at where Zubimendi is. I've mentioned Lewis Skelly tucking in to create a double pivot from left back whenever Arsenal are in possession, or Declan Rice dropping back to create a double pivot out of possession. Here he is very isolated. There isn't a lot of options for him whenever he receives the ball and turns. And as you can see in the second image, there's 2 players pressing him. But he is a player that's more than comfortable doing that. And with a team like Arsenal, who simply know where to stand, that shouldn't be an issue. We saw it with Spain. He really thrives when he's away with his national team and playing with better players. This is why he needs to move on from Sociedad. He's a player that's given everything, but unfortunately the team hasn't kept up with his development. Another example here is you can see where he wants to receive. He's very comfortable. The first image, he's very much in a 2 at this point, but there isn't a huge amount of movement around him in advance of him. Same in the second image. There are players to go backwards, but every time he's turning, and quite often you'll find Martin Zubimendi has to go over the top when he's playing at Sociedad, as opposed to having a lot of players around him in very tight spaces and options to pass to. So think of him as a chess player. He's someone that will give it short. He'll get it back, give it short to someone else, and suddenly he will chip that ball over the top. Very similar to what we've seen from Jorginho. But what's really beautiful about this guy's game is that he can go on both feet. Whether he's as good as Jorginho was at Napoli, I don't know. Jorginho was unbelievable at Napoli, and we forget just how high of a level he was playing at. And during his early days at Chelsea, the guy did come 3rd in a Ballon d'Or award. So we kind of write off Jorginho's quality, but he is someone who is hugely respected because of what he did in the early parts of his career. And even now he comes in at Arsenal and does a job. So he's going to be a miss. And this is where Zubimendi comes in and replaces him. But you look at his passing numbers. He's had 1 assist this season, just 1.27 expected. Touches around 61 per game. He is playing in a non-possession based team. So Sociedad aren't exactly controlling huge amounts of every game. This was similar to Declan Rice at West Ham. He was having less touches per game. When he was playing in a 6, he was having around 20 touches per game, less than what he was at Arsenal in the 6 role, sometimes 30 touches a game less. So expect Martin Zubimendi's touches to probably rise by 20, maybe even 30 or 40 per game. And the number of accurate passes, I don't see changing massively. Maybe it'll bump up to close to 90% just because there will be a lot of short passes. There's going to be a lot more options. But at the same time, this is a player who will take risks, who will pop it off and go straight over the top and really give options to his teammates. He is someone that wants to play forward. He has more passes in the opposition half. As I mentioned, Sociedad aren't exactly smothering teams. Arsenal start on the halfway line a lot of the time. So you can expect to see Zubimendi playing a lot of passes into the final third. He is a player that whilst he's a 6, he aggressively steps up. He gets the ball, he smothers teams, and he will move into space. I say aggressively because despite being small, he is someone that plays with a punchiness that Jorginho doesn't quite play with anymore. And this will allow him and Rice to really pin teams back. He moves very well. And as I mentioned, the simplicity and minimalism that he plays with, when he goes forward, he's going to pop it off first time. He's not going to take that extra 2 or 3 touches, but he carries the ball very well through the middle. Again, he's not quick. That's something to be aware of. This guy is not quick. You'll hear people talk about Casemiro overran him with United. As I mentioned, the Sociedad team has really, really struggled this season. So be aware of the team that he is playing in. The chip passes in there, 2.4. And this is a guy who really likes that pass over the top. His long balls as well. He will go for a huge range of passing every game. Chances created, as you can see, they're going in all directions. So at times, Arsenal have been accused of being too predictable. Our central build-up has struggled. We do create a lot of our chances down the flank and on the right. And Zubimendi's ability to play things quickly over the top will really benefit Kai Havertz and whatever other striker we sign, because Havertz is a player that takes defenders on a walk. He takes them to a journey that they don't want to go on and into zones of the pitch where they are uncomfortable and spaces are created in behind. Whoever else comes in is probably going to do a similar thing. And having a runner like that, or 2 runners at times, will really benefit Zubimendi because he will have a quick release to be able to play that ball to. And if our striker can hold it up, suddenly they're not going to back to someone like Bukayo Saka or Martin Odegaard or a high-quality player as opposed to what he's got at Sociedad. So the chance creation isn't the main part of his game. He is someone who wants the ball, who wants to move it with both feet, and he's a punchy counter-presser who will win the ball back very, very effectively. And once he's won it back, he's very efficient on it. So he's not someone that is going to play safe. He is someone that wants to win. He wants to move it forward. And his imagination on the ball and his adventurousness will help Arsenal progress up the park. Here's an example of him moving up the park. So you can see his teammate has the ball in the right half space. He sees the run. He starts going into space. He gets it. And as I mentioned, first time pass, fizz straight into the box, into his centre forward. How often do we see our players take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches in and around that area? It's something that really concerns Arsenal fans. And it's also something that we don't see Thomas Partey venturing into those areas. And quite often when he does, he wants to hit a shot from there. So this is what I talk about with simplicity. But doing the simple things to an elite level is one of the most difficult things in the game. And Martin Zubimendi does them extremely well. Another example here is the chip pass that I talked about. Here he is attacking that space, gets the ball, opens his body in the left half space, and chips that ball into the box, into his centre forward. That's something that you would expect Kai Havertz, or if we sign Victor Gyökeres, Benjamin Sesko, any of those strikers will be attacking that area, not to mention the late runs of Mikel Merino, who he's played with before, or Declan Rice getting into the box and really attacking these balls effectively. So finally, just to wrap up, because everyone's going to want to know his injury history, he's a player with a pretty good bill of health. He did have a hamstring injury at the end of last season, just as the season finished right before the Euros. He missed the last 5 games of the season for Sociedad. And aside from that, he has missed very few games, just 5 games in his entire career. Before that, 10 in total across his career. He's a player with almost permanent availability. And given that he is replacing a player in Thomas Partey that's had a really, really horrible bill of health during his time at Arsenal, this is a big benefit. Thomas Partey could well stay at Arsenal and is likely to be a rotation option going into next season as he gets a bit older. Zubimendi is expected to come in as the first choice 6 in the team. But I keep saying this, when we get to this season, we need to get away from the ideas of first 11. Zubimendi is very much coming in to improve our best team. But there are so many games, it's so important to rotate effectively. And we will see Thomas Partey play. We will see Zubimendi play. We will even see Rice play in the 6 again. We could even see Marino there. Or who knows, Lewis Skelly might even play in that role. But there is going to be rotation in the team. We need bodies. We need quality bodies at that. Martin Zubimendi very much brings that to the table. And as I've mentioned, the key thing and the thing that I'm most excited about is his ability to play quickly off both feet. He gets the ball. He's not scared to turn and carry. He can carry almost with the smoothness of someone like a Rice in the middle of the park, but he doesn't want to charge the length of the pitch. He wants to get it out, and he can go central or he can go to either of his flanks and play that ball very, very quickly. At the same time, he, in a defensive structure, we talk about how he can be beaten on transition. This is something that is true. He will be overrun. If you're playing a team with a load of very, very fast attackers, Declan Rice is going to need to work very hard in the defensive capacity. But as I mentioned again, we have got some incredibly strong, quick, physical centre-backs and 2 very, very good full-backs, 3 very good full-backs who can cover for that. So we need to trust them. We need to use Zubimendi's on-the-ball ability. But off it, again, as I mentioned, effective counter-presser. He's a very good interceptor, very good in the air despite his size. He times his clearances very well. He's all about timing and reading the game. And this is something that Arsenal have lacked at times. So this is one to be excited about, to really embrace. And look, every team on the planet wanted this guy. Liverpool chased very, very hard last summer. Real Madrid have wanted him for a long time. Bayern Munich have wanted him for a long time. This is a huge coup for Arsenal. And instead of writing off a player because you don't like that particular style, ask why have so many top clubs want him, and why does Xabi Alonso repeatedly speak so highly of this player? Thank you for listening. If you want to go and check out the Jokeres scouting show that I did with Ben Mattinson, that's also on our channel, and we will have much more in this series coming up over the summer. Have a great day. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and we will see you again very soon.